Good, good. How are you? Do you hear me well?
Yes, hear you very well. So yeah, lovely to have you for the week. I know that you have a bit of a presentation shared. So how we'll conduct the session, if you just want to go ahead with that. And then when you're finished, we'll have our community AMA. And yeah, everyone listening in can kind of ask questions and we'll keep it pretty casual.
Okay, yeah, I'm sure there's going to be lots of questions because Instadap is quite complex. So I'm going to do sort of like a high level and a low level presentation. So I'll walk through for users that have never used it, and then for people that are more a little bit on the development side in terms of how to build on top of Instadap.
Perfect. No, that sounds great. And for everyone listening in as well, we're giving out and gifting out really cute Instadap decentralized jackets. So make sure when you ask your questions in the Discord, drop your wallet address, and we'll be gifting those after the session. Okay, thank you so much, Seb. Take it away whenever you're ready.
Okay, let me we'll do the entire screen.
Sure.
1 second, I'm going to have to allow my preferences.
No problem.
One second.
Take your time, don't worry. This is like a Web2 trouble, right?
Yeah. Oh, it wants me to close my browser, which I don't want to do because that's my presentation. Give me 1 second to just kind of see if I can save my session somehow.
Or if you want, even I could. This is what I did for Aave. I can always share my screen. If you don't want, like, if you send me the presentation, I can click through.
Yeah, no, I had my presentation in tabs. That's why. So I'm gonna actually need 1 second to kind of pass over my links. Otherwise, I'm gonna kind of lose my place. So just one quick second.
While you're doing that, I'll bring up.
Or let's see, I'm gonna actually see if I can just open you on a different browser so I don't have to close the one that I'm using.
Sure.
So 1 second.
While we're waiting for Seb, I just wanted to share the little Instadap decentralized jackets, but it's just loading as well. Here we go. Okay, Seb, looks like you're back. All good?
I think we're going to be good. Just 1 quick second. We want the. All right, cool. I think you see me.
Oh, perfect. And then can see your screen as well.
Awesome. Okay, great. All right, so really quickly, I'm just going to introduce Instadap. Instadap was created around 2018. It actually came from an ETH Global hackathon. It was 2018 ETH India. And at the time, Instadap was solving the unique problem of MakerDAO opening CDPs. So if anyone is an OG and remembers MakerDAO in early 2018 when it first launched, it was a very complicated platform. It required 20 transactions, and it was quite confusing to use. And so what Instadap did was create sort of a one-click open a vault and get some DAI generated all in one click, and it simplified everything. And then Maker actually kind of mirrored us and actually also simplified their interface. So we kind of set the standard in terms of what that looks like today. And then later on that year, Psy migrated, well, DAI was called, DAI was single collateral. DAI at the time only was backed by Ethereum. And then they moved to multi-collateral DAI, which we call it today, which is, where you can generate DAI from any multiple assets like USDC, BTC, Wi-Fi, so on and so forth. And so at that time, what people had to do was essentially pay back all their debt to then recreate their position on the new standard. And this was quite difficult to do for some of the largest CDP holders at the time. And what we did was we created a flash loan bridge that would pay back your old debt in the old Psy and bring you and recreate your position in the new DAI. And that's sort of the start of us using flash loans. And we'll talk a little bit more about flash loans as I go on. And then later on, around 2019, more like 2019, Compound released the comp token, and users flocked to us to leverage up their position and increase their comp earnings. So that was really big for us. And then most recently, we have become a more decentralized protocol by launching our INST token. So I'm going to play this quick video. It is a little high level, but I'll go back and talk about these different components. All right, so I'm going to just go through our tokenomics page real quick, but mainly for just to get you a sense of what kind of composes the Instadap protocol. So we have a few things going on. So we have the authority framework, as you saw, how your accounts can be accessed, and I'll talk a little bit more about that. All the future system upgrades are also governed by the token holders. As I mentioned before, we do a lot of flash loans. And so we do have liquidity sourcing and bridging available. So that's very helpful for a lot of what we do. With the creation of our INST token, we also created a DAO treasury. So we have ecosystem funds. And then as that video explained, we have these extensions, which are things that sort of bring new functionality into the DeFi smart account. So let me go down. So the Instadap protocol is essentially a collection of different smart contracts, and that's what comprises the DeFi smart layer. The most critical component is the DeFi smart account, which is a smart contract wallet that allows you to interact and utilizes all the different functionalities of Instadap. A few things to know about that smart contract wallet: it's non-custodial, so we don't have access to that account. If you're familiar with other smart contracts like Argent or Gnosis, these are wallets that are first smart contracts, so they're able to have different functionalities built in. And then for us, so the two things that I think are really important is how we leverage the different protocols that we're built on top of, and that's through these things called connectors. So we essentially integrate different protocols into the DeFi smart layer, and then your account can access them. One of the really unique things is, I don't know if you've ever heard this example of like DeFi Legos. I think we're pretty much the best example of DeFi Legos. So whenever a protocol is integrated, what we do is essentially wrap the different functions of that contract. And that's how we're able to layer on and create these more complex transactions, which I will show you in a minute. And then most recently, what we're working on is the authority framework. So this is how you access the account, which seems very simple. You know, you have your account, you access it, but there's a lot of other unique stuff that could be built on top, like leveraging the liquidity in your account. So that way your idle assets can earn interest. There are lots of like social recovery, being able to give particular permissions to your account. So such as like creating a kind of like a fund manager. So there's a lot of really unique use cases that are coming from that. And then I'm just going to bring you over into our app. So, and what I'm going to do is actually, I'm just going to walk you through the whole application because there is quite a lot going on here. And it's a lot to learn. So this is your interface. So if the first time you come in, it's going to ask you to create an account. Again, this is that DeFi smart account, and you will have to pay gas to create it. So why would you have to pay gas for this account? Again, this is an on-chain smart contract wallet, and it's non-custodial. So basically, you would run this transaction and generate your own wallet that you have access to. So once you do that, you land kind of on this page. And the first thing I'm going to do, and I would recommend if anyone is new to DeFi or just wants to try different things, is to try the simulation mode, which is actually how I'm going to walk you through this. So the simulation mode is right down here, and you just click that on, and it lets you know that you're going to feel super rich. It's going to give you 100 test ETH. There are some token swaps which won't work quite as well because it's a fork environment, and a couple of other features don't work while in simulation, but it's great. It's a great learning tool and a great way to play with money. So we're in simulation mode. If you see up here, it's about 30 minutes that you can use it. And let's first go to this right panel. So this right panel is actually the Instadap account address. So the first thing I would do is click deposit, and you're going to find this address right here. This is your unique DeFi smart account address. So you own this, you can send assets to it. And then below it, what you're going to see is the assets on your MetaMask wallet if you wanted to deposit any of these into your smart account. But we already got 100 test ETH, so we're good. And then same thing, if you wanted to withdraw out of that Instadap smart account, you click withdraw, and then you just let it know what you'd like, and it would go back to your MetaMask account. All right. So first thing we should do is go through the different protocols. Well, let me start with the top first. So up here, the balances, this is the balance on your DeFi smart address, the DeFi smart account. What you're going to see on this side is actually your DeFi balance, right? So if you can see down here, I have a really small compound position where I have about $27 of ETH supply and about $1 borrowed. So when you see up here on net worth, it's going to say 26.23, which is the total value, which is that Ethereum minus the debt that I owe. That's going to be up here. And then right below it, we actually have a liquidity mining program. So you will earn INST tokens for maintaining this DeFi balance up here. And right now it's about 3.4%. So then if we go down here, we have the different protocols. This is just an overview. So the best way to see it would actually be over here. And I'm going to actually take us to Aave and walk us through some of the different strategies that we have. So this is your Aave dashboard. Again, your balance is right here. And then over here is their strategies. So we don't really have anything on Aave right now. So we'd want to start by doing that first. So you could do this by clicking supply and depositing some ETH. That's pretty simple. Or you could use a strategy that will kind of combine the transaction for you. So these are what I would like to call like the compound transactions. So you have deposit and borrow, and then you also have payback and withdraw. So let's start a position with deposit and borrow. And we're going to deposit ETH. Let's just go with 20. And then if we wanted to borrow something that wasn't DAI, you would just click here and just choose which asset you like to borrow. But I'm going to start with DAI. And then also you could choose the different APR types. This is for Aave v2, which has a stable and a variable. We're going to stick with variable here. So let's say we borrow, we'll start with 25,000. And we'll actually put a little bit more ETH. And so then right here, it's the projected debt position. So it's going to tell you, all right, you're about to have 40 Ethereum as collateral, and you're going to withdraw 25,000 DAI as debt. And then here, it kind of gives you a sense of where your position is. So we use something called debt to collateral. So basically the amount of that you owe versus the amount that the collateral is worth multiplied by its collateral factor. So right now, if we were to do this, it would put the position at 20%. Once the position hits 80%, that's when it's at risk of being liquidated. Now, depending on the protocol, sometimes it's automatic and sometimes it requires, some bot or external contract to execute. And then lastly, it tells us the liquidation price in Ethereum. So if Ethereum were to fall to 759, this position would be at risk of liquidation. And then on the right of it, it shows you the current Ethereum price. So let's go ahead and deposit 40 and borrow 25 G's. And we'll give this a quick second to refresh. And so we'll see right here, we have now a 140 ETH deposit position, a collateral position, and then we owe 25,000 on it. So let me go quickly through what's this information kind of below. So the collateral factor is right here. So for Ethereum, it's 0.8. That means about 80%. So you can borrow 80% of the value against your Ethereum collateral. And then the liquidation level is sort of this little buffer zone where your position's allowed to get liquidated. So Aave actually gives you a little buffer, which is kind of nice. Then you're going to see the rates down here. So this very, very small 0.03% is what you would gain by supplying Ether. But also, you're going to also gain some staked Aave while the Aave promotion is going on. And likewise, you have a borrow rate, and you would also earn some staked Aave for the borrow. So just right now, you'd be earning 0.3% on the Ethereum, and then you'd be owing 3.96% on the borrow. This other number is, you would be gaining this. And then these percentages are APRs. So this would be for the year. So let's say you wanted to close that position. So I want to show you kind of the different ways. So the more classic way would be to just click payback and then pay back the DAI that you owe. And then you would withdraw the Ethereum collateral. But you could also do it with a strategy. You could do payback and withdraw. Again, another compound. So it's going to mix the payback transaction with the withdrawal. So I'm just going to run a small one here of just 5,000. And we're going to withdraw, say 5 Ether. And same thing, it's going to show you what the position will look like, what the new liquidation price would be. And we're just going to run that. All right, so this is what our new position looks like. We have now 35 ETH and we owe 20. If you look at the balance, you would see that, well, the DAI actually, because of the way it works, the DAI it always goes to 100, but technically you would have 105 ETH here. So let's go to the more complex strategies. So again, these first two were just, mixing two simple transactions. But the most popular strategies on Instadap is actually leverage and save. So let's look at the leverage transaction. So why would you want to do a leverage first? So essentially, if you do a leverage, what you're going to do is, well, let's say if you do it like this with Ethereum and DAI, you would be borrowing additional DAI, immediately buying that Ethereum with that DAI, and immediately depositing it into your position. So essentially, that's a long, right? So if you wanted to long Ether, this is how you could do it. So let's go ahead and go really long on Ether. So let's say we want to go 65,000 and we'll go long. Now, a few things to notice is if I tried to borrow 65,000, let's just see if I tried to do that, my position would actually be very risky. And let's just go all the way to, let's say, 75. So here, I actually can't even do this because the position will liquidate. But if I try to borrow the 75,000 through the leverage strategy, you actually will be able to do it. So why? So this is where, oops, not 75,000 ETH DAI. So here you'll be able to do it. And as you can see, the position says 51%, right? But why? That's because in the same transaction that you borrow we will take out a flash loan and deposit it for you. So we essentially are kind of superseding the limits. In a way, you could technically try to do this, but you'd have to do it in multiple transactions. It'd be very expensive. So being able to use a flash loan is what allows us to make this more possible. So we're going to go ahead and take a super long. We'll go ahead and borrow more than we could if we didn't use the strategy. We'll go at 75,000, and we'll go ahead and just leverage that. And again, I'm not going to go through compound, but it's very similar. Aave and compound work very similarly. I will go through Liquidity and Maker. All right, so now we have this leverage position. We have 59 ETH, and we owe 95,000 DAI on it. So if the price of Ethereum, let's say, had doubled, right, you'd owe something like 3,600, almost 37. So you'd have $370,000 worth of value. And then you could unwind that position, or what we like to call it is save. So you could do essentially in the reverse, take your Ethereum that's supplied, convert that back to DAI, and pay back your debt. And that would essentially accomplish a leverage. So I'm going to just do it really quickly here. And also, again, same thing with leverage. Like if you were to try to unwind this position now yourself, it would be way too many transactions, and it wouldn't be efficient. So like, let's say you'd have to withdraw. So you'd have to withdraw 95,000. So you'd have to withdraw like about half of that, which is about 25. And you actually even can't do it. So this is where the flash loans make this possible. So we're going to go ahead and do a save. And I'm not going to save the whole position. I'm just going to do a portion, but I do want to show you what that save looks like. So in this strategy, what you're doing again is you're withdrawing your ETH, you're converting it and depositing and paying back that debt. And so what you would put up here is the amount of collateral you want to convert, which is about 15 ETH. And it tells you here it's up around 46,000 DAI. And just go ahead and unwind that position. And the same thing, if you wanted to like close your position, you can just put the full amount, and that way you can have no debt, and then you can withdraw your collateral. Okay, so this is what you have now. And then I want to show you, well, two things. One, a lot of these strategies, while they have like, saving is for saving and leverage is kind of like a long, you can kind of use these things in different ways. And we'll show you that now with the debt swap. So we have two more strategies. We have a collateral swap and a debt swap. So these are what I would call slightly more advanced strategies. So your collateral swap is going to take your underlying collateral, which in this case would be Ethereum, and convert it to something else. When would you want to do that? So let's say if Ethereum surges and you want to capture that value, you could do a collateral swap. Or maybe you wanted to buy another asset for whatever reason, you could do a collateral swap. You could do a collateral swap to turn it into DAI and kind of hedge the price of Ethereum. So you have quite a lot of options with how you use that. And then we'll talk about debt swap, because debt swap is very interesting. So debt swap is what it sounds like. You would be transferring your debt to a different asset. The most classic example would be, let's say DAI. Well, right now DAI is actually it's not the cheapest. So DAI is 3.96. So let's say you wanted to convert all your DAI debt into USDT debt, because you'd earn a little bit of a savings with the borrow. So you could do something like that. The more interesting thing that you can do, which requires a little bit of market knowledge and you have to be a trader, is you could potentially short your debt. So like, let's say you were thinking, okay, the price of Bitcoin is going to go down. So you can actually trade your DAI debt into Bitcoin debt. So let's actually do that right now. So let's say I want to trade that debt into Bitcoin debt, which is kind of interesting. And we'll do about half a BTC. And then you would swap it. And then now the debt that you owe is Bitcoin, but that Bitcoin is priced in dollars. So if the price of BTC were to go down, you could then debt swap that back to DAI, and you would essentially be creating a short on BTC price and reducing your debt in the process. And I do want to show you an example of kind of what these transactions look like. So when we did a leverage, this is sort of what a leverage looks like. It's this one. So this is what we're doing in the background, right? So when you wanted, so in this example, this user was leveraging 15 ETH to the position. So the contract went and borrowed an additional 50 USDC from Aave. It immediately swapped that for Ethereum. In this case, it used Sushi Swap, and then it applied that directly back to that position. And then I also want to show you, I'll tell you a more complicated one. So I found a large collateral swap where someone was using their DAI collateral to actually buy Ethereum in their Aave position. And it looks kind of crazy, but I'm going to walk you through it. So this is the transaction. It is, so the transaction that they submitted was a collateral swap of about 7 million DAI to Ethereum. So the first thing that we did was go ahead and create a flash loan using DYDX, and then we supplied that Ethereum to Aave, and then we withdrew all this DAI out of the protocol, and then based on the market and how to most efficiently buy this Ethereum, it went ahead and did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Whoops. 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So it did about 14 different swaps to get that Ethereum. So it used Curve, it used Kyber, it used Sushi, it used USDT. Some of it was in DAI, some of it was in USDC. The reason why it does this is because if you were to do that 7 million on one protocol, you would experience slippage. So it kind of spreads it out. So it spreads it all out, and then that user gets returned this 2,150 Ethereum. That was the collateral swap. And then at the very end, the protocol pays the flash loan off, and that original Ethereum is returned to DYDX. So I just wanted to show you kind of what those things look like, because they are a little bit kind of complex. So that's sort of the strategies, how you would use them in something like Aave. I do want to show you guys a few other things. So similarly, Compound and Aave, oops, let's see if it loads. Yeah, so Compound and Aave are kind of similar when it comes to the strategy, so I'm not going to go too much here. But let's go to the utilities. So on top of being like a somewhat managing all these different protocols, we also have tools that are very specific to Instadap. So one of them is refinancing. So we're just going to do a sample refinancing right now. So we created this position on Aave, but let's say for whatever reason there's a better rate, or we like the collateral factor, or we just want to be on Compound because we want to earn some comp. So you can go ahead and do a refinance on this page. You would just select which protocol you want to refinance from. In this case, we want to do Aave. And as you can see, this is our position right here. And then all you would do is click max. Or if you don't want to move all of it, you can say, hey, I want to leave the BTC. But then you go, it's actually not going to work because you didn't leave any collateral. So you'd have to actually move all the debt, or you could split it up. But I'm not going to split it up. I'm just going to go ahead and move the entire position from Aave to Compound. And again, this is one click. It's a hefty transaction on Ethereum. So be forewarned, you might want to do it when gas rates are a little bit lower. And that will be it. So let's jump over to Compound. And now we have our position on Compound. And we can manage it on Compound. And again, all the same tooling is available. If you wanted to switch rates between Compound, you could do that as well. I just want to show you really quickly. Vault. I actually do have a vault open. You want to click up here and click Create New Vault. And then you'll see all the different vaults that are available. If you haven't used Maker, Maker only uses one asset at a time, unlike Compound and Aave, where you're able to supply multiple assets. There are also debt minimums with Maker, so you might want to take a quick look at how much debt you have to actually hold to use it. So Maker can be a bit of a high bar of entry. So let's say we want to do an ETH vault. We're going to go ahead and put 25 ETH and supply it. And then we want to click over here to find our new vault. And there you go. So now you have this Maker ETH vault. That's the vault ID. That's about how much if it's worth in USD, and then the borrow rate. We don't have any debt on it, so let's actually create some debt. And I believe the minimum is 10, so we're just gonna go for 20. And you're gonna see all this, very familiar. You're gonna get your liquidation price. You're gonna get your debt to collateral ratio. Same thing. If you hit 66%, you split this vault or separate it out or do like a collateral swap. You'd actually have to swap the vault. So you can go into this page and basically manage, have better tooling available to manage your maker position. So one of the things we could do is take this new vault and split that debt with the old vault that I had, or we could create two vaults. Or if you wanted to switch from ETH A to ETH B, because the stability rate, the liquidation rates, everything are, actually, I think ETH C is the best. So let's say you wanted to go from ETH A to ETH C because the stability fee is the lowest. You can go here, and then same thing, just enter the max. So this I'm seeing it may not work. We'll see. So you could just do a vault swap this way and go from ETH A to ETH C. If you wanted to, let's say like the Ethereum price was getting higher and higher, like it surged, and you're like, okay, well now like the amount of debt I owe is really low. Let me actually go to ETH C so I can earn on the interest. And so you can go and check the ETH C vault, and you'll see that you get that nice low 0.5% borrow rate. So that's more or less how Maker works. And then Maker also does work with our refinancing. So if you go to Maker, you can actually go ahead and refinance your Maker vault. Again, if you want to do Maker changes, you have to use Vault Swap. But like you could go from Maker to Compound, you can go from Maker to Aave, or you can consolidate. Like if you wanted to just say, hey, you know what, I want all the debt like over here on this side, you could do that. Let me go through a few more things on here. So we have the Polygon Migration. Unfortunately, a Polygon Migration is not working for the newer accounts. It will probably be working in the next month or so. But essentially, if you were able to use this earlier, it was really awesome. You're able to take your Aave V2 position and bring it all the way into Aave Polygon market. And that way you can take advantage of the super low fees, any of the farming opportunities on Aave. Very, very cool that we're able to do this. You can also move your balances, which is essentially accessing the traditional Matic bridge. So just moving your assets from one side to the other. And then let's go through a little bit more of the toolings. So as I talked about earlier, we have this authority framework, which is how you access your account. So let's say if we go to our account here. So what you're going to see is you have, so this address that I'm using owns two accounts. And the second account that I'm currently using actually has two owners. So two different addresses that can actually access this account. If you wanted to see the better page, like a fuller page, you could go here. And you can remove authorities. You can add different users. By the end of this year, we'll probably have like social recovery, guardians, and essentially expanding the capacities of authorities. If you had a position on an external site, so let's say you had Compound on your regular MetaMask address and you wanted to bring it into your Instadap account, you would go to import positions. Instadap will use a flash loan and will pay off all the debt and recreate that position all the way within the Instadap protocol. And then remember, if you do happen to have a somewhat large position or just you want to earn something extra, you are also going to earn the INST tokens while your position's on Instadap. The DSA migration was for our older users, so I'm not going to show that, but that's if you needed to upgrade. And then lastly, we have delegation. So if you have some INST tokens in your account and you want to delegate its voting power to another address, you can do that here. And that is sort of the overview of sort of like the interface of Instadap. And now I'm going to show you a little bit more of like the technical stuff. But essentially, a lot of what I'm going to show you on these other pages, you can actually do here as well. It's just, it looks different. So let's bring you to our framework. So all the strategies that you see, let's say on here, is 2,150 Ethereum. That was the collateral swap. And then at the very end, the protocol pays the flash loan off, and that original Ethereum is returned to DYDX. So I just wanted to show you kind of what those things look like, because they are a little bit kind of complex. So that's sort of the strategies, how you would use them in something like Aave. I do want to show you guys a few other things. So similarly, Compound and Aave, oops, let's see if it loads. Yeah, so Compound and Aave are kind of similar when it comes to the strategy, so I'm not going to go too much here. But let's go to the utilities. So on top of being like a somewhat managing all these different protocols, we also have tools that are very specific to Instadap. So one of them is refinancing. So we're just going to do a sample refinancing right now. So we created this position on Aave. But let's say for whatever reason, there's a better rate, or we like the collateral factor, or we just want to be on Compound because we want to earn some comp. So you can go ahead and do a refinance on this page. You would just select which protocol you want to refinance from. In this case, we want to do Aave. And as you can see, this is our position right here. And then all you would do is click max. Or if you don't want to move all of it, you can say, hey, I want to leave the BTC. But then you go, it's actually not going to work because you didn't leave any collateral. So you'd have to actually move all the debt, or you could split it up. But I'm not going to split it up. I'm just going to go ahead and move the entire position from Aave to Compound. And again, this is one click. It's a hefty transaction on Ethereum. So be forewarned, you might want to do it when gas rates are a little bit lower. And that will be it. So let's jump over to Compound. And now we have our position on Compound, and we can manage it on Compound. And again, all the same tooling is available. If you wanted to switch rates between Compound, you could do that as well. I just want to show you really quickly Maker, because Maker works a little differently. So first thing, if you don't have a vault, I actually do have a vault open. You want to click up here and click Create New Vault. And then you'll see all the different vaults that are available. If you haven't used Maker, Maker only uses one asset at a time, unlike Compound and Aave, where you're able to supply multiple assets. There are also debt minimums with Maker, so you might want to take a quick look at how much debt you have to actually hold to use it. So Maker can be a bit of a high bar of entry. So let's say we want to do an 8th A vault. We're going to go ahead and put 25 ETH and supply it. And then we want to click over here to find our new vault. And there you go. So now you have this Maker ETH vault. That's the vault ID. That's about how much if it's worth in USD, and then the borrow rate. We don't have any debt on it, so let's actually create some debt. And I believe the minimum is 10, so we're just going to go for 20. And you're going to see all this, very familiar. You're going to get your liquidation price. You're going to get your debt to collateral ratio. Same thing. If you hit 66%, you would be liquidated on Maker. There's a 13% penalty, so make sure you don't do that. And then, leverage, save, deposit, borrow, payback, and withdrawal. We know what these are. The one that's different here is Vault Swap. And Vault Swap is unique because of the way Maker positions work. Well, I wouldn't say positions, they're vaults. So if you wanted to split this vault or separate it out or do like a collateral swap, you'd actually have to swap the vault. So you can go into this page and basically manage, have better tooling available to manage your Maker position. So one of the things we could do is take this new vault and split that debt with the old vault that I had, or we could create two vaults. Or if you wanted to switch from ETH A to ETH B, because the stability rate, the liquidation rates, everything are, actually, I think ETH C is the best. So let's say you wanted to go from ETH A to ETH C because the stability fee is the lowest. You can go here, and then same thing, just enter the max. So this I'm seeing it may not work, we'll see. So you could just do a vault swap this way and go from ETH A to ETH C. If you wanted to, let's say like the Ethereum price was getting higher and higher, like it surged, and you're like, okay, well now like the amount of debt I owe is really low. Let me actually go to ETH C so I can earn on the interest. And so you can go and check the ETH C vault, and you'll see that you get that nice low 0.5% borrow rate. So that's more or less how Maker works. And then Maker also does work with our refinancing. So if you go to Maker, you can actually go ahead and refinance your Maker vault. Again, if you want to do Maker changes, you have to use Vault Swap. But like you could go from Maker to Compound, you can go from Maker to Aave, or you can consolidate. Like if you wanted to just say, hey, you know what, I want all the debt like over here on this side, you could do that. Let me go through a few more things on here. So we have the Polygon Migration. Unfortunately, a Polygon Migration is not working for the newer accounts. It will probably be working in the next month or so. But essentially, if you were able to use this earlier, it was really awesome. You're able to take your Aave V2 position and bring it all the way into Aave Polygon market. And that way you can take advantage of the super low fees, any of the farming opportunities on Aave. Very, very cool that we're able to do this. You can also move your balances, which is essentially accessing the traditional Matic bridge. So just moving your assets from one side to the other. And then let's go through a little bit more of the toolings. So as I talked about earlier, we have this authority framework, which is how you access your account. So let's say if we go to our account here. So what you're going to see is you have, so this address that I'm using owns two accounts. And the second account that I'm currently using actually has two owners. So two different addresses that can actually access this account. If you wanted to see the better page, like a fuller page, you could go here. And you can remove authorities. You can add different users. By the end of this year, we'll probably have like social recovery, guardians, and essentially expanding the capacities of authorities. If you had a position on an external site, so let's say you had Compound on your regular MetaMask address and you wanted to bring it into your Instadap account, you would go to import positions. Instadap will use a flash loan and will pay off all the debt and recreate that position all the way within the Instadap protocol. And then remember, if you do happen to have a somewhat large position or just you want to earn something extra, you are also going to earn the INST tokens while your position's on Instadap. The DSA migration was for our older users, so I'm not going to show that, but that's if you needed to upgrade. And then lastly, we have delegation. So if you have some INST tokens in your account and you want to delegate its voting power to another address, you can do that here. And that is sort of the overview of sort of like the interface of Instadap. And now I'm going to show you a little bit more of like the technical stuff. But essentially, a lot of what I'm going to show you on these other pages, you can actually do here as well. It's just, it looks different. So let's bring you to our framework. So all the strategies that you see, let's say on here, we created these, but any user can write these transactions. And any protocol that's integrated into Instadap can leverage other protocols to make this all-in-one transaction. So I'm going to bring you to our developer docs real quick. And if you are a developer, please check it out. It explains a lot about like how our accounts work, how we call different spells, how we build interactions. But what I'm going to show you right now is the connectors, which are over here. So this is all the functions that you can use on Instadap right now. So, you know, you have 1inch for trading, you have the Aave rewards contract, Aave V1 and 2, the transfer bridge, authority, so on and so forth. And you could leverage any of these things to create a transaction of your choosing. So there's a couple ways to do them. So let's say you wanted to like deposit into Aave in one step instead of doing it in 2 steps. So you could essentially copy these spells and build up a transaction. So we have a special website called terminal.instadap.io, which is here. And let me just connect my wallet. And if I go to Instadap first and show you, this is my account 28299. So I just loaded that account on this terminal. And you can just go ahead and build different types of transactions. So I kind of started writing here a sort of like pseudo transaction for something that like DIGITALAX would use, right? Like what would that look like? Well, maybe you deposit an item and maybe that item is staked and maybe that item claims Mona for you. And then that it goes ahead and restakes that Mona. So you would build this transaction. And then when you execute it, it would just be like one transaction that you submit. So there's a lot of really cool and fun things you can build off of here. I'm actually very excited to see what kind of happens here. And to just walk you through a little bit of like, how do we get to, oops, let's go back to this page. So these are all the integrations. So like, how do you get integrated with us? So we do have a process for integrating with us. And I'm just going to basically show you guys this just to give any developers a sense of how it works. So every contract that comes into Instadap gets this wrapper that we called a connector. I might have used that term before. So the connector essentially is just wrapping all these different individual functions. So if you wanted to integrate into Instadap, you would just get, take your existing contract and format it into our connector contract. And I'll share this if anyone's interested. It shows you how to build a connector. In this example, Liquidity, they created the connector that for their contracts, and then they submitted a pull request. There's also another set of contracts that we use called resolvers. These are read contracts just to get data. So for most applications, you would need to also submit that. And then they submit the PR. Our team reviews it, makes sure that it's consistent, it makes sense, it will work. And then we submit a proposal to governance. So I'll just show you what that looks like over here. This is what Liquidity submitted. And then our community went and did a snapshot. And then after that snapshot, our team merged that master. And then and then it gets added here. So now you have Liquidity and all these functions, opening a trove, closing a trove, depositing, withdrawing, borrowing, repaying. So all these functions that are over here as well are now available to use in any custom transaction. And then sort of where we're going, which is very exciting, and just sort of as we're shifting to a more decentralized open platform, we have created an alternative dashboard called Assembly, which I'm going to show off here. So this is Instadap Assembly, and same thing, right? If you were to connect here with your wallet, you're going to see the same accounts. All right. So I'm just going to switch over. So Assembly is our open source dashboard. This is made for developers, made for experimentation, made to build and create, and also to shift essentially the control that we have. So if you would like to build a DApp page or start building out strategies, you can just go right ahead in here. It's really awesome. So the two things I want to show you about here is where the repo is. So if you go to GitHub, Instadap Assembly, feel free to fork this. Let us know if you're working on anything, if we could help you build something on Assembly. I believe DIGITALAX is going to be here. It's just very exciting. We have a couple of other more experimental protocols that might jump on here. And here's a process of just how to ask for that merge. Yep, and then I just want to walk you through our GitHub really quickly. So as we saw, we have Assembly, which is that open source dashboard. We also have our connector contracts. So if you ever needed to get into the weeds, you can kind of check out here how to add a connector. You can also see which connectors are available. This is always, I don't want to say this is alpha, but like it's alpha because you can always see what we're working on here. Like, as you notice, there's probably a couple items here that wasn't in our documentation that are things being worked on. You can always look at the pull requests and see sort of what other connectors and things everyone else is working on. So really a cool place, good repo to be paying attention to. If you were an app developer and you wanted to develop on top of the contracts, you could check out the DSA Connect repo. And this essentially shows you how to build a app that can connect to the DeFi smart accounts. And again, what's really cool here is any user that already has an account with Instadap would be able to log into your app immediately and bring all their assets with them and all the tooling, the liquidity, and strategies that are already built in. And I guess a few other items that are things that are kind of unique to us. So by building this smart contract framework, this authority framework, we're able to leverage these smart contract accounts in a very unique way. So one of the things that we're working on right now is automated DeFi limit orders, which is a mouthful. But essentially, you're going to be able to put the assets that you have in a protocol like Aave, for example, and have those assets be also, while you're also supplying Aave, also have it be liquidity for trades. And in this case, you would be doing a limit order. So I'm not going to walk you through this. It's quite complex, but just a sense of, like, why would you do something like that? Well, we have lots of stablecoin farmers, comp farmers, Aave farmers that have these large, sometimes dollar positions. So DAI, USD, DAI and USDC, so on and so forth, where they're supplying DAI, and I guess I'll show you this example. So in this example, they're supplying DAI and borrowing DAI at the same time to farm Aave. But what if we could access part of what's going on here, like essentially kind of like doing a debt swap? What if we can do a debt swap in an automated way off of this account? And again, because it's just dollar coins, we can slowly chip away at debt, essentially creating this new interest revenue model by allowing allowing your deposited assets to also be providing liquidity for the market. So somewhat complicated stuff, but really, really interesting. And there's a lot more that can be leveraged by creating with us, particularly with the authority framework. There's the possibility of having, like, let's say Yearn manage assets in all the DeFi smart accounts and then paying everyone who has a DeFi smart account interest by accessing all of our assets as liquidity, and some other sort of more edge cases. But I think I'm going to slow down here so that way we can get some questions in, because I'm sure there's a lot. And I'm going to turn back to Emma real quick.
Perfect. No, thank you so much, Seb. That was great. So the first question that we have is that Instadap, you guys are really focused on the interface side, making that as simple as possible so that more people can come in, they can interact with a greater range of protocols. When we combine this with thinking about the metaverse, NFTs, gaming, this whole subset, how are you guys thinking about new ways that you can, build out new interfaces so that more people can actually interact with Instadap, other than just say like what we see today, which is the website, other ways that are maybe more immersive, more gamified. They just have different elements to them. Is this something that your team is looking at, you're interested in? If you could share anything of that, that would be great.
Yeah, so very exciting. We just did 2 pull requests to add ERC 721s to our account. So NFTs are possible. We are looking at making them a bigger part of Instadap, because again, if we can bring NFTs in, then these NFTs can have access to every other protocol, right? So you can have something that you buy that then gets deposited or can earn some type of staking reward. I also have some ideas that I think of, again, this is like not something that's solid that we're going to do, but things that we're thinking about. So one of the things that I'm very interested in is how can we align incentives like DeFi market incentives with NFTs, right? And something that I'm thinking about in terms of gamification is like, what if you have this DeFi avatar that is part of your DeFi Smart account? And based on the actions that you do, like if you're borrowing or supplying, this avatar can change and morph, and it could be a way of, let's say you want to like promote liquidity on Aave, for example, right? So we can create this NFT character that gets stronger by the more that you supply to Aave. And so so that's kind of what we're looking at. It's like, how do we align DeFi with NFTs, and how can we use gamification to like align incentives? So I'm thinking more of like a DeFi avatar type item where this DeFi character walks around with you and could maybe promote good DeFi use, or maybe we can promote degeneracy. I don't know. There's a lot to be built on. But yeah, I think the NFTs have a really good future with Instadap based on just being able to access so many different functions. So it's kind of crossing this, it's making a little bridge between, items and monetary function.
No, it's interesting, that point you made, kind of having the dynamism, whereas the users are...
Oh, I lost it for a second.
Sorry, my internet is a little bit dodgy today. But I don't know how much you missed, but kind of having, like you mentioned, the NFT going on a journey, with the user as they're growing out their DeFi account or engaging in different strategies. In the spirit of Fashion Week as well, I mean, that's something very interesting when you think about like the modability of fashion itself, and how, people want to kind of wear different outfits to self-express in different environments. Even something like attaching different digital fashion outfits to different strategies, or to a user's closet, that over time, that their closet grows, or their digital and IRL closet grows, as they actually engage in more strategies. They lock up liquidity in different protocols. I mean, these are really interesting concepts, and I think that's kind of the sweet spot between NFTs and DeFi as well, is combining kind of the best of both to create something that is really gamified, but it's from a user perspective. It's like there's even more skin in the game, I guess, in the world and the immersivity that they're creating. So with that said, Seb, to the next question. So obviously, Instadap, you focus a lot on the middleware side for DeFi as well. In what ways do you see dev tooling, integrations, and expansion of middleware that bridges more into novel uses of DeFi in the metaverse, in gaming and fashion? So you mentioned a few, but is there kind of some other crazy things that even we're not thinking about? I know when we had Aave with us earlier in the week, we were talking a bit about how flash loans could be really interesting from a gaming concept as well, you know, like kind of having quests, and then depending on, you know, maybe the experience points or the inventory that a player builds up, they actually are kind of completing a strategy or a flash loan, and that's kind of creating the economic value that they're given back as they're playing. Are you guys also kind of considering, I guess, how more complex financial products can actually be integrated into the gaming and the metaverse, the fashion side?
Yeah, so there's a couple things there. So I think where we're going to see a lot of this go is towards like automation. I think automation is probably the next wave for DeFi and for Instadap. So where I see kind of like NFTs and Instadap going is being able to have a character that, you know, gets these items, and that those items are automatically in a marketplace for you. They're automatically earning. So it's not so much, because I think right now and this is where Instadap is good, is like there's a little bit of a disconnect. Everything takes, like, it's a lot of steps, right? You have to buy something, you have to earn something, you have to put it on a market, or you have to sell it, you have to retrieve the sale. So being able to have some type of integration where you're able to generate a game that has all these game items, and that those game items immediately have a marketplace, immediately provide liquidity for you, immediately, you know, it does everything for you. So you just play a game. So essentially you would be playing a game the way you normally play a game today, but your items are NFTs, but then your items are also like in the market. They're also earning other rewards for you. And that's kind of where I see a lot of that going. And then in terms of like the questing, like I also think in terms back to like the gamification, like I think it'd be really interesting to create like dev ventures or like dev adventures, where we ask like certain communities, we generate these characters for them, and we say, hey, if you guys can get your connector, you know, your contracts enabled with us, then you're like, all these characters are going to win some reward, or potentially earn an additional like reward from our liquidity mining, or again, just aligning incentives. So this really cool, innovative character that you have is actually aligned with development and developmental goals. So that's kind of another angle that we could take it in. And then I just wanted to mention, we were talking about like repping for protocols. I think we're in a really unique position because we're kind of like a protocol of protocols. So I think it would be really, really cool to bring in these fashion items to your characters, like things that you can wear, things that you can rep to show, hey, I did the Aave quest, or like I learned all, you know, I did all the functions on Aave, or I did an over $1 million flash loan, so I get this fancy hat. And I also think that like it'd be great to create a primitive too for these characters, so that way they don't necessarily only live with us on Instadap, but that they can be used for other games as well. I think that would also be kind of important.
No, the interoperability side is really key as well. And so another question someone asking is, does Instadap have plans for a mobile app? Is that something that you guys have thought of?
We have thought about it. I don't think that's something that we'll do today, but I do believe that a lot of apps will go in that direction in the future. So let's say like in the future, Instadap has Ethereum 2, it has Avalanche, it has Polygon, it has Optimism, you know, it has all these different chains. It's going to be really difficult for you to move a lot of that money. It might be easier for us to abstract all of that away, create a simple app where you move money around, and we in the background but figure out, you know, what the best routing is. You know, either we move you from Optimism or we move. So that's kind of where I think the app will come when there's more abstraction. And I think that will come when the network is like faster and more reliable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that brings us to the close of our session today with Fashion Week. But honestly, thank you so much for coming on. That was really insightful. And yeah, I guess we'll drop more links and some of those that you shared in the presentation in the DIGITALAX Discord and in the AMA channels. So more people, designers, creators can jump into the Instadap Discord and stay up to date with you guys as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much. This was really awesome. And again, if anyone wants to reach out, I'm super friendly. Instadap community is also very fun. So just, you know, let us know if you're building anything. We'd love to support you. So check us out on Discord, or my Twitter is at Steven Macha.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Seb.
All right. Bye.
Bye. Okay.